I'm sure people will join.
Yes, and
okay.
we are recording, right? Yes.
Yeah, I just started recording.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. It's really good to see you again. We missed our because we didn't have a Friday Hangout last week. We missed seeing you. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces to our Friday Hangout and familiar faces from various projects joining us today. Sorry, I just stupidly closed my laptop, but that's where my notes are. So two computers today. So yeah, well, we're joined today by Ghadah Alkandari, who is in Kuwait. I will introduce her formally in a second, just to run through the format for the call. If you haven't joined us before, we will talk to Ghadah for about 20 minutes between ourselves. The event is supposed to be like very conversational and casual, and anybody can join in. We encourage you to ask questions. It would be great if you could write your questions at the bottom. There's a chat box. If you click on that, you can write your question there. And then when it comes to questions, I will pick them out and sort of invite you to ask your question, or I'll read them out. Whilst we're talking, we're going to mute everyone so that we don't hear any background noise of people's cats or children running in or anything like that. You might find it useful to put the screen onto speaker view so you can focus on the people who are speaking, and you can change that from the top right hand corner. You can either have it on speaker view or on gallery view. I've got it on gallery view and I can see all your lovely faces. So that's nice. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, yeah, put them in the chat, and we look forward to having this conversation today. So one thing we like to do every week is find out where you are dialing in from or calling in from. So do let us know. Write it in the chat where you're calling from.
Doing a bit of work, but do you want to go and have some breakfast? Some lunch?
I think Katrina's microphone is on.
Hi, Katrina. Katrina is a former colleague of mine from the British Council. It's nice to have you. And hopefully we'll see you later. So yeah, so let us know where you're from in the chat and we can read those out. Yeah, we've got a lot of Londoners today. Oh, no, somebody from Dorset, Belfast, Kuwait, London, Doha, Ealing, Beirut, Clapham, Slovenia. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone from Slovenia before. Kuwait, great, excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Sorry, I'm going back into my computer because like I said, I stupidly closed it when I needed to read my notes. Anyway, we'll get started. So I'm really pleased to be, that I can introduce Ghadah Alkandari. Hi, Ghadah. So Ghadah is a visual artist based in Kuwait. She was born in Delhi in 1969, and in 1992 she received a BA in mass communications from the American University of Cairo. She told us yesterday that Cairo had really shaped her with her, she lived in Cairo in her formative years, and that really shaped her life and her identity. So it'd be nice to hear a little bit about that. But it was a 6-week painting course that Ghadah did at the School of Visual Arts that really shaped her current painting style. And we'll be talking to Ghadah more about her work, which ranges from large-scale, primarily figurative acrylic paintings that explore the wide spectrum of human emotion, from sort of familial complexities to the intimate, to sort of the intimate sort of, or the banal sort of moments of everyday life. So Ghadah, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm great. It's so good to see everybody. I'm a little nervous. I'm not really on Zoom, so bear with me. Am I on now?
You are. Don't worry. And we're all.
Yeah. So I was just telling a friend that things like this are great because if it weren't for the lockdown, the borders would be closed, and this has sort of opened up the borders for everyone, and it doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. I can be part of your lunch break now. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and we've got people signing in from all over, from Slovenia and Kuwait, and we've had people sign in.
You know, they're virus free, seemingly.
So how is life in Kuwait at the moment? I think we have to get the COVID-19 stuff out of the way, because it comes up in every conversation.
Actually, we're finally on a 24-hour lockdown with 2 hours of exercise from 4:30 to 6:30. And anyone who's never exercised before is exercising now. So, and then we have, for supermarkets, we have appointments, which is great because you don't have the crowds. Haven't done that yet, but next week.
Yeah.
So those are our days.
Yeah. So is that a big difference? Because we know that we had a project in Kuwait. So we've been running a project called Making Marks since throughout 2019 and this year as well, which we will probably end up mentioning, and some of our Making Marks artists are here today. But we were going to do an exhibition in Kuwait in March, and a few weeks before, we heard that everything, all the schools, university, ministry buildings and venues had to shut down. So that was quite a bit before us in the UK as well. I think that was in February when we got that news.
Well, we locked down, I don't remember the exact date, mid-March. My show was March 17th, and that closed down gradually. At first it was, let's just have a quiet opening, then let's just have no opening at all, and then let's just close completely. So it happened very gradually over time. And Kuwaitis and people, the locals, are hard to contain. We like to be out. People like to go to their restaurants, they like to go out, and I kind of miss that. I miss people going out. I don't miss me going out. I love staying at home. Feeling that buzz outside, and it's really still and quiet, a little too quiet. It's a little,
Well, have you found that this period has given you some space for creative exploration, or is it a difficult time creatively?
No, it's great. When you have, one parking spot, and it's full, and then you park there, it's the opposite of that. It's like you have all these parking spots, you don't know where to park, you end up not parking anywhere. It's like that for me. It's like I've got so much time and so many ideas that they've created this sort of traffic jam of ideas, but I haven't done any of them. I'm just doing the usual, the painting, the drawing, but nothing really, none of those ideas have come to fruition. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I have all these grand ideas and I end up doing nothing or working on puzzles. So I'm sorry to disappoint,
Well, I do not blame you at all. I think we've all said that, during this time we'll learn something new, we'll do a course. If I'm not working, thank God we're working, because I think I would just lie on the sofa all day.
I did say I wanted to learn to sew, and I did one line. I poked my finger. I don't have a sewing machine. And basically I just sewed 2 squares together, and I was happy with that. And now my cat plays with it. Okay. So yeah, that was the extent of my adventures.
It ended up being productive, or useful for the cat anyway. Well, so Ghadah, we actually met. I met you in 2012. Yeah. When I was based in Kuwait, and you were already then doing a lot of work online anyway. You had a very successful blog, you were connecting with people internationally. I remember doing studio visits with some visiting artists to you in that year, and we had a really a discussion about how you connect with people globally and not just the art scene in Kuwait. So is this sort of maybe Zoom is a new tool, but is this kind of a normal thing for you, connecting with people globally through your...
Well, it's about connecting to people. That's ever since I was little, it's been part of my life, and I was painfully shy, and it was how I socialized with people. It was what defined me. You know, in school I was, oh, that's the girl who draws, and they'd bring me these, you know, their papers. Can you draw a picture for us? This was as young as, you know, I was in the 2nd grade. I was 6 or 7 years old. So it was always part of, because I was so shy as a person, the drawing allowed me to communicate with people, and I still use it as that device, is a way to communicate. But also maintaining a distance, a safe distance. I've been social distancing all my life, you know. It suits me to be 2 meters away from people, but I also show my work. I need to show my work. There's a hunger for it, to expose myself that way. And I, you know, my journals are pretty candid. They're very frank. They're very open. But again, having that distance and having that sort of the technological wall feels safe for me. And, you know, I keep telling people I'm a much nicer person now because there's no risk of people wanting to come over. I'll be nice to you now, like genuinely nice to my neighbors, because I know I'm not going to get a knock on my door. Hi, can we come in? And no, I'm good at the distance, you know. It's just the way I am. Yeah, and the art is an extension of that.
Well, I mean, in terms of showing your work, Becky, or would you be able to share? We have some links for your website and your Instagram, which you are very active on Instagram. And I have to say, I log in every day to see what you're posting, so and see how your work is developing, so you know, do check those out whilst we're talking, so you can see what we're talking about. I mean, your projects, I mean, can you tell us a little bit about your work from your point of view? I mean, there is one thing that I think that I've noticed. Obviously it's very figurative. There is most of your works feature women, and one woman in particular. Could you introduce her to us?
Eve. Well, Eve was sort of an accident, because I don't create the women. I paint women, and then with time they develop organically into a character, and so she's been happening over time. And then one year I decided, I never liked the name Eve, you know, Hawa in Arabic, to represent a woman. I just felt it was very sort of, why are you generalizing us women? So one exhibition in 2013, I decided to call all of them Eve, just as a sort of it was like a joke, but then it stuck, it backfired, and everyone just started calling her Eve, and I couldn't get rid of it. Like I was at, you know, can you stop calling her Eve? And then I gave up, and now she's called Eve, and I, you know, I joined the crowd. So, and the thing is, with the last exhibition that didn't happen, that was my farewell to Eve. That was going to be the last time people saw her publicly. And that never happened, which maybe it's a sign. Because, you know, even what I call the finale painting is she's walking out of the painting. And I'm going more towards abstraction, because it's something I've been wanting to explore for a while. It's just color and shape and anti-shape, shapes that we're not familiar with, or I'm not comfortable with, colors I'm not necessarily comfortable with. But that didn't happen.
That exhibition, it was at the Sultan Gallery, am I right? It was called Outfit.
It was called Outfit. Well, it started off as just me wanting to, because I love fashion design as well. I love clothes. I love clothes. You know, again, you know, I don't really experiment myself on an everyday basis with clothes. I'm always in black, but I love clothes and I love color. And I wanted to sort of just explore that. It was going to be a really light exhibition, very light. And again, a celebration of Eve. And then the virus, the outbreak happened, and we were talking about this yesterday. I am scheduled to have it in September, but everyone's lives have changed so much, and including mine. So it feels a little irrelevant now, you know, but I still want people to see the paintings.
Well, before we say goodbye to Eve, can I show you two Eves? I don't know if you'll remember these, rather.
Yeah. Yeah.
These two works, I bought these in, well, I didn't buy them both. I bought one of them from your exhibition, the polka dot exhibition
Oh yeah, the polka dot.
in 2012. And I think I said at the time, oh, I don't know which one to get because I'm really poor. And so you gave me both of them, which is extremely kind. But I was like, oh, I shouldn't say things like that to people.
You don't need to, but why not? You know, if you wanted to, you have to have both.
Well, I can see there are British Council colleagues here, and former colleagues. I used to work for the British Council, and the living in Kuwait just hammered me. Like the Kuwaiti dinar against the pound was so strong, and I was just like, everything was double what I was used to it being, and so I was like, oh my god, like what, you know, have to make decisions. Sorry.
Imagine it reversed. Like I'll go to the States or to England. I was like, oh, that's just, you know, it's £3, but oh, that's just a dinar and a half.
Wow.
Sort of both ways, but inversely.
Well, so speaking, I mean, I've been returning to Kuwait over the years. I think that the art scene in Kuwait is really exciting. We talked about this yesterday, but we've been running this project called Making Marks, which connects artists from across the UK regions to artists who are based in Kuwait. And we did 2 trips. So one to Kuwait at the beginning in April 2019, and then we did one to the UK, which was in the summer of 2019. And I think we were just really blown away by what creatives were doing in Kuwait, from people who were just creating their own spaces, making sort of resources available to other people so they could share in those spaces. And we found that really exciting. What do you think about the art scene at the moment in Kuwait? I mean, obviously COVID is affecting it, but
yeah, I mean, temporarily, I don't think it's going to be this, indelible thing. We are very entrepreneurial in terms of how we create these spaces. We do have very sort of fruitful minds in terms of how to set things up and how to create mood. And people are great. Like Kuwaitis have really good taste, and they create these spaces, and they're really good at interior design. So they create the space, and then you've got the artists, you've got the only thing unfortunately we're missing is the actual infrastructure. So my hope is that there is an area in Shuweikh, which I love. It's just an alleyway, and that's coming to life. Music, it kind of resembles the, like it's starting to look a bit like Shoreditch to me, like really trendy and gentrified, whereas in the past it was quite industrial. So you have a lot of musicians there. You've got all these kids, and Kuwait's a young country. You have a lot of the youth population is quite huge, and it is bustling, and you see it, and there's graffiti everywhere, and there's graffiti in hidden places, things that I don't know. I'm a little older, so I'm kind of old school now, but I see this happening, and I think it's great. I just wish we'd have larger spaces, and pedestrianized areas. That would help a lot, rather than having these areas where you're watching out for your life because of the cars.
Yeah. Well, we visited you in your studio. I do have some pictures. I'm gonna put them up, so in case well, I can't do them both at the same time, but this is one picture of our artists. We had
that's the sitting area.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, I can't believe it was like a lifetime ago. And I remember at the time, a lot of our discussion focused on your process in terms of in sketchbooking and journaling. And that was something that we were really encouraging our artists to do as a process in terms of for like thinking about the work that they wanted to create for the commission for Making Marks. Can you tell us a bit about your journals and sketchbooks?
Yeah, I mean, my sketchbooks are everywhere, really. They're all around me. I have different journals. I've got everyday journals, what I'm going to do tomorrow. Now I have my comic book journal because I started a comic book. We didn't talk about this yesterday. I have my flight journals, what I do on a plane, you know, because I'm on a plane, I'm stuck, so I'm doing flight journals. So it's, again, the journal itself is an ends rather than a means to an end, because I don't, when I paint straight away, you know? I don't do any sort of planning beforehand. So yeah. And the journals, and then you have the straightforward journals where I actually write about my days. And that's, oh yeah, that's the one they're looking at. I actually have it right here.
Oh yeah.
Every now and then I like to look inside just to see how my life was on a certain day.
And are these journals are private, or are they?
They're all over the net. They're on my blog. I'm a private person, but I'm also not very private. You know, I do write in code sometimes. It's funny. It's a bit of a clash. You know, it's a bit. What's the word? I'm stuck. I don't know. I can't remember the word. Starts with a C. Contradict. That's the word. Yeah.
So the process. So we can see those on your blog. Is that right? Or on your website? People can click through. Find out some secrets about Ghadah.
You won't find any secrets. You'd have to read between the lines. That's the thing. It's like the comics. You'll know who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about if you know me. But everybody else, you know, will just like, all right, this is funny or not funny. Or
your comics, I have seen those recently on social media as well. So we'll get we'll link to those when we can find them. Everyone can see them as well.
My confidence level is low on the comics, so maybe not this time.
Well, okay. So well, we're going to start taking questions soon because we generally like to keep this light and conversational and keep the conversation going. So please do write questions. Becky has a question for you. Becky, would you like to ask your question to Ghadah?
Yeah, just because I'm obsessed with them. I want to know about your, I had to Google what they were called because I wasn't sure. Your origami polyhedrons. I know they're from, but yeah, you have so many and they're everywhere. I'd love to know, yeah, where they came from.
You know, I love love. A lot of my work is about love, rather looking for love and filling up this void left by love. Basically, I had a really bad non-breakup. I call it a non-breakup because he didn't really break up with me. He just let it, you know, let it go. And then I felt like I needed something to fill up the void that he left behind. It was a long love story. And then I said, well, they started off as this prayer, like, I want to create these until I find love again. This was in 2015, and I'm still creating them. So it goes to show you. So now I have like 600 of these polyhedrons in boxes in my storeroom.
Okay, thank you.
That is part of your answer.
Yeah, I
was like, I better find love soon. Otherwise, you know, I don't have much more space left in my home.
And have you moved away from that theme at all, or do you find that it still is incorporated a lot into your work, the theme of love? Yeah,
I mean, it's not about it being a theme of love, but a lot of times I paint because I feel like I am missing love. So I create the feelings and emotions that come into the paintings, because a lot of my paintings are just simply quite, you know, the composition is really simple. It's a portrait of a woman. So all those emotions come out in the painting. I can paint women over and over and over and over. It's quite obsessive, but it's that feeling of love or lack of thereof that goes into the paintings. But there's also other emotions like anger and frustration, and again, it all goes into the paintings. I'm very emotional. I'm a bit, you know, I can fly off the handle and just go nuts. Sorry?
That's the best way to be, definitely.
Yeah. If you're alone at home and no one's around, sure. Maybe that's why I haven't found love.
Well, the questions are coming in quite fast, so I'm going to pick up a couple of them just because they're related to this. One, Hajar was asking how long it takes to make a polyhedron and what material you use.
An hour.
An hour, okay.
I use paper, origami paper. Yeah.
So Mace is asking.
Made of like 30 pieces. I could show you. You can actually take them apart.
Ooh.
So each one is made of 30 of these. See? And then I put them back together again.
How long does it take to put it back together?
A few minutes.
Okay. Do you find it's like a mindless, like something that you can do fairly automatically, like whilst you're just doing other things like chatting and stuff, you can just make them?
Yeah. I'll have something in the background and I'm just creating one after another. It's like knitting. It's very therapeutic, physically therapeutic. And then once you're done, you think you're exhausted, you don't want to do another one, but then it's almost like a mental, it's hectic, it's exhausting, but there's this desire to keep going.
Yeah. Well, on the theme of repetition, somebody was asking about how you draw and paint a lot of faces. This is from Vitor Gaspar, and he's asking, is this an obsession or a motif?
Oh, yeah. Obsession, for sure. I'm a very obsessive person. It can be used for either good or for evil. And the evil part is just trying to I obsess about small things. So I channel it into, painting. At some point in school, I used to draw in the margins, just eyes over and over and over. And there's a bit of suffering involved because it's hard to stop, but you can't, and you want to, and you can't. So it is obsessiveness for sure. A lot of my work, of the repetition. There was one time when I had a notebook that was just squares, like over and over and over and over, just squares. It was just mad. But, and my kids remember that. I mean, it's affected my children. Well, remember the time when you drew squares all the time? How can I forget?
Well, sort of related to repetition, Mace is asking, so obviously Eve has featured in your work for a really long time. Mace is asking, like, given the COVID-19 sort of situation, do you have any ideas related to producing work that is sort of Eve in lockdown or delaying her exit?
Delaying her exit. Well, like I said, it looks like she's not going to exit my life. She's just going to exit the public realm, But I don't see how I can incorporate, I haven't really thought about COVID in terms of how I incorporate it into my work. My work isn't very, it's quite visceral, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens throughout this time. Now, we don't know how long we're going to be in lockdown. We don't know anything. So as with anything else, my work is very sort of organic. And for me now, it's more about just staying at home uninterrupted. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Daniel Daniel Lowe is joining us today from the British Library, and they are collecting Arab comics. They're collecting Arab comics. I would love to hear more about your comics and the comic scene more generally in Kuwait.
They're not very Arab comics though, because I lived, like I said, for my first 22 years, I didn't live in Kuwait. We did live in mainly Arab countries, but I grew up in an international surrounding. My friends were Americans, were European, Arabs, Japanese, Asian, So it's this sort of global sense of how I think. And that's something I've been struggling with myself, living in Kuwait since 92, 28 years, is that right? So I still feel a bit like an outsider. So I wouldn't even call them Arab because they're quite international. I don't think they count. They're just, again, they're about me and my experiences, but they happen to be done by an Arab woman.
Yeah. That's interesting. So would you say you do identify as an Arab woman?
I want to be a definition of an Arab woman for sure. You know, I want someone to, because I think at 50 now, I'm 50, but I'm still trying to figure out who I am. And I realize that I have to just be who I am, just be who I am and not try to figure it out. And I think that's a pressure that a lot of us have. And especially when I look at a lot of the Arab work, it's quite politicized. It's, you know, and I feel like, why isn't my work politicized? You know, when I'm feeling a little like, oh my God, her work is so much better than mine. You know, we get insecure. And I was like, no, this is me. I can't be anything else. You know, I try sometimes to put some politics or to, you know, it's not about putting politics into it, but it's about reacting to certain political events. You know, and I'm a big promoter of the Palestinian cause because I was married to a Palestinian, my children are Palestinians. So, but for me, even that part, it's more artistic where we do like the embroideries and the, you know, we look at it more from a social standpoint and a cultural standpoint when we do our Palestinian exhibitions. So I'm just me, you know, and if this is what an Arab looks like, well, then this is what an Arab looks like. I've always felt like an outsider, whether I was in Egypt, whether I was in Spain, whether I'm in Kuwait, there's always that sense of being an outsider. So, and I've come to terms with that. And this is just me.
I mean, perhaps a lot of us here probably identify with that as well. I mean, many of us living in the diaspora or even returning to our sort of home countries.
But that's not even a diaspora. I was part of an exhibition once and I felt like
Yeah. Oh. Well, there are a lot of questions, so I will Becky Maddock, would you like to ask your question? Or would you rather me read it out? Okay, I'll read it out. So Becky Maddock is asking, what would be your recommendations to someone who wants to develop a sketchbook journaling habit?
The first page is always the hardest. I still like, I don't want to ruin that book. You know, there's that sense that it's so beautiful and pristine. So basically just do anything. That first page, write your name, anything, just mark it with something. And once you have that first mark down, you're done. You've already started and you can't go back to having it new and pristine again, you know? That's just my advice. That's what I do. It's scary. It's scary. That's why for me as well, like starting any canvas, I just do my first scribbles and then you're a lot more relaxed.
When you do your painting, you said earlier that you didn't really plan them. Do you just sort of start and then see what is coming up in front of you and then?
Sometimes there's a general plan, but most of the times it's just, let's see where it takes me, especially with acrylic, because I'm really fast. And acrylic dries really fast, so I can correct things, I can move things around. And the worst part is if you love an aspect and you love another aspect, but you know that those two things can't be on the canvas, that's kind of hard. You have to just obliterate one of them. So yeah, no plans, yeah.
So Aimone has a question. Aimone, would you like to ask your question?
I was just wondering about, I have a bit of a shelf obsession, and I've been working on my shelves at home for the last 3 years, and every time somebody comments, like, oh, I like your shelves, I'm like, they're just a work in progress, they're never finished, like I can never finish my shelves. And I noticed that you have amazing shelves in your home. Amazing shelves, and I just wanted to over the years you posted on Instagram, like you've shown how they've changed over the years, and I just wanted to know, like, is that some kind of therapeutical thing for you to be? No.
Because I have to clean them, so when I move everything I find it just boring putting things back the way they are. So I put them back. Every time you see that they've changed, either I've done something for an Instagram post or I've cleaned my shelves. And the cleaning bit is getting rarer and rarer. So they've been like this for a long time.
But I mean, we've seen, like, you know, in Halloween, you've dressed them at like different exhibitions.
That Halloween was a crazy Halloween. That Halloween, I spent so much time doing the house that I just completely neglected my own costume. And I'm a huge Halloween fan. And it was just that year. There was no more energy after that. So
I remember thinking that must have taken a lot of hours to get those.
Yeah, I'm quite committed.
And you have really beautiful portrait photos. I mean, you're a great photographer. You're doing it yourselves, is that right?
I am a great photographer. I know how to pose for myself. If it was anyone else taking the pictures, I wouldn't feel so comfortable. But when it's just you, I could be so relaxed. With a self-timer, a good tripod.
A mug? Yesterday you were saying you put it on a mug. It's very important to have a mug there.
The ladder, yeah, fantastic tripod.
Yeah, well, it's just incredible that they're all self-portraits. It's phenomenal. They're really beautiful. So Mariam Dashti, Mariam, are you here? Do you want to ask me a question? Not sure where she is. Maybe I shall ask the question. Ghadah disappeared. Oh no, she's there. How does your family influence your work, and what's the involvement of your kids, and are they accepting?
I don't know, forget my kids. My kids are fine. I do wonder, actually, if having my family affects, it's basically my father. It's really my father. And we talked about this yesterday. Do I worry about offending my father? He's the only one. Everybody else, I'm like, yeah, I'm cool, I'm free. But then when it comes to my father, I still feel, I'm that 12-year-old girl. And I wonder, would I go crazy if, this sounds bad, but if he no longer existed, would that affect my work? Would that affect me as a person? So, I grew up with this sort of ceiling over my head, which was his formidable personality. And funny enough, I'm a lot like him as well. So at the same time, they were very encouraging, and they took us to museums and to galleries, and he is proud of me. But there's always a sense of, am I censoring myself because of my father? It's just my father. I don't care about anything else. And it would be interesting to see if one day I woke up and thought, never mind, I don't care about that. What would happen? Would I shift to other things? Like, for example, I love the human form. I don't mind exposing myself, and the older you get, for me, the more children I got, the less conscious I was of my own body. And I find the human form, especially a woman's form, gorgeous, beautiful, and tactile, and so poetic. I don't know, maybe one day you'll see full frontal me. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's now that our parents are on social media, it's very difficult for us.
I'm like sweating now because I'm like, what if he's on here? Because I have it on gallery view. So I don't know who's out there yet. I'll switch in a bit just to see who's on. So I have no idea who's on right now.
Well, we've had no objections from us. Yeah, we were having really interesting chat yesterday about Arab fathers and the expectations. And I mean, what did they think? What were did they have expectations of you? You're in career-wise, did they think being an artist was a good career, or were they encouraging you to try something else? Or
no, I mean, I didn't go to art school, but if they wouldn't have minded if I took a minor, but at the time AUC didn't have an art major, So I would have done that. But like I said, you know, I learned a lot from AUC that, you know, in terms of friends and life, and but they're proud that I paint. They love watching, you know, they love coming to my exhibitions. And one of the things, and this kind of is very heartwarming with my father. My father was an ambassador, and he was quite, you know, I loved saying, oh yeah, this is my father, and people knew who he was here. And then when I would sign my name, I would sign Ghadah Alkandari. And he would say, why don't you put Ghadah Alkandari, which is his name? And I said, well, you know, I need to move away from that because people need to know who I am. And then again, he was like, well, wouldn't it be better if you put the 3 names? And he goes, and I said, Dad, I need people to know who I am. And then he goes, but it's not about you, it's about me. I want people to know that I'm your father. And it was like completely like different, opposite to what I thought. I thought he wanted people to know that I was his daughter, me was his daughter. I didn't want people to know I was his daughter. I wanted to be known independently. He wanted people to know that he was my father.
He's very proud.
He is proud. I don't give him credit. And I think a lot of it is my own projection, I think. You know, we grow up being, you know, intimidated by some people. It could be your father, your mother, you know, whoever. But with me, it was him. And I have to start, well, at 50, I have to stop feeling that way and just give him credit, you know?
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll all get there one day. I was telling you yesterday, my dad still doesn't know what I do, what my job is. He's just like, whatever. Anyway, so
those women, aren't you tired of painting those women? It's like, no, Dad, they look the same, they look alike, but each one's different and unique.
So we have a question from Haya. She's asking, Haya Al Farhan, can you talk more about your influences? Where do you draw inspiration from?
I draw inspiration from my everyday life, really. You know, like I said, it's about emotion for me. It's about how I feel, because again, it's very emotionally charged, my work. In terms of physical, like inspiration around me, I do love, you know, I love all sorts of art, including children's work. You know, when I look at how a child draws, that is so inspiring for me because they're uninhibited, you know, and they just go with the flow. I mean, it's the most honest form of drawing and painting and art with these children. So that's, I think, those are the things that inspire me. I like cemeteries, I like churches, I like, you know, these are the things that make me appreciate, you know, beauty and want to go home and create.
Yeah.
Is that
That's
good enough for Hayam?
We've had a few questions about Eve and your influences. Just going back to Rania and Simon, they were asking.
I know Rania. Haven't met Simon.
Oh, that's great. Rania, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, Ghadah. I love your artwork, man. I just want to know, you know, with teaching, and she came to my school, she did an amazing talk with my kids. I have to tell you, the kids still remember you to this day. I just want to tell you, they still talk about you. So yeah,
where's your school, Rania?
It's the King Fahd Academy in East Acton. So she popped there and it was brilliant. They're really influenced by her work and we still use it in the lessons and stuff. But for me, as an artist, and Simon, my husband, you guys haven't met yet. Say hi. I want to know how you overcome your block, because when I'm teaching, I just drain myself so much and I just get blocked. So through the lockdown, I've been able to create, but I still have massive block. How do you overcome that?
Like I said, you just put things out on paper, on canvas. You know, I don't know what you use. What do you usually use?
Well, I do embroidery stuff. I started painting again recently, which I've been doing. So I've done that, and yeah, I've just been looking at lots of different influences at the moment. But I just started painting, and I love working with pen, just biro pen. So I've started to do that, and I kind of feel like I'm finding myself again through the lockdown, because I was losing myself as an artist. So I just, sorry guys, I'm overtaking.
No, we're here to have a chat.
Yeah, just do it. Just start. I don't know why we're all so scared, including me. These are just objects. It's just a notebook. We're so intimidated. Don't just do it.
I have so many sketchbooks, and my husband just walked down the stairs and he will laugh because we have this but we've moved house twice, and this giant box has come with us both times, and it's full of blank sketchbooks where the first page I've written in the first page, so it's kind of like the whole sketchbook's ruined now. I have to find another one because I don't want to do that.
Oh, I don't know what to say, Nadia. Flip the page and write your name.
Do another one. I think I could go into all those sketchbooks and they'll be like, 2012, or I think I even have sketchbooks from when I was living in Kuwait and then in Doha.
Too much, Nadia. That's the thing with my work. I have one of my brothers is such an academic when it comes to painting. He's been working on one painting for the last 10 years. I go through paintings because that's the way I am, and that's the way he is. He's a thinker. I just do. I just like, So sometimes just tell yourself, I'm going to write my name on every single line in this book. And that's it. Your brain, I think, will start to produce ideas, and one thing leads to another. You have to trust your brain.
Yeah. Well, we still got some more questions. I don't want to miss out on people. Laura De Feliz is saying, nice to know I'm not the only one who feels like an outsider. My own family does not even consider me one of them because I am a half-breed.
What? Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. If you want to join the conversation,
join the half-breeds here.
Turn your mic on. There are a few of us who are half something, I think, in this space.
Yeah.
So, do we have any more questions? Vitor Gaspar is saying, on my sketchbooks, I am myself scared when I start them. So what I do is start on the second and third page and say to myself, I will come later and make a good image to start that sketchbook. That's a good idea. I hope, does it work for you, Vitor? I'm assuming it does.
Add something to that. One of the things that I do is I have these sketchbooks that are plainly just for my pen and ink drawings, and I work on them, and I'm done with them, and I hate those drawings. I was like, oh no, these aren't working for me today. I go back a few weeks later, just by coincidentally, I'm leafing through them. I'm like, oh, these are good. But at the time, you're just so in it that you're a lot more judgmental on yourself. You need time to forget, go back, and then you see them through almost other people's eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've Becky, you have a question. Would you like to ask your question?
Oh yeah. I was wondering, you said you were leaving Eve behind and moving into abstraction. I was just wondering whether, is that something that you're already doing? And yeah, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about it. How does that affect you, and yeah, why really?
The abstraction thing, I knew that eventually, for some reason, I would go into that. I didn't want the representational, the figurative anymore. I wanted just to focus. I became too familiar. I mean, I've been familiar with her face. It became almost robotic, that I felt it was just, I felt like I was in a whirlpool. That was it. I had to get out. It was starting to become a little stale. And finally, I mean, it's taken me decades for that to happen. So basically, it's now an exploration. That's it. Like just something new, something I'm less comfortable with. And I'm usually not someone who leaves my comfort zone, but with this, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
So, and it works with the emotional. It works with all of a sudden getting rid of the figurative. It gets rid of a lot of the problem solving that goes along with the anatomy and getting, you know, the hands right. It got a bit cumbersome, and I needed to get away from that. I needed to get to something more basic that was more, again, shape related, color, exploration of color and shape.
And your home, which is so beautiful, I was like absolutely blown away when I was there, and that's your studio. Do you ever make work outside of your home, and does it feel any different, or do you only really make work when you're there?
I lose when you talk about outside, like a mural or something, or a studio.
Just outside of like anywhere. I don't know, is your home your studio, or do you have a separate studio as well?
No. I mean, even if I did, I would probably just work from home. I think it's just laziness. Everything is here, you know, and convenient, really. It's all here, and spontaneous. You know, I'm also quite spontaneous. Like if I had to drive to the studio, and then, you know, what if I lose my anger driving out to the studio, or I lose my passion, or I get pissed off at something else, you know? It's nice to have it right there. It's right there. You know, everything is set for me. I just go into it.
Okay, thank you.
Helen is saying that the book, The Greater Freedom, Life as a Middle Eastern Woman Outside of the Stereotypes, covers some of the topics that we've mentioned here, including the relationship to the father, making our own decisions, and being a Hafi. I'll definitely look that one up. I think that would be a really interesting read.
I mean, we're all subject matters for a book like that, aren't we?
I think so. And I think even if you are, like you're saying, I mean, so many of us from across the Arab world have even have lived in other countries, like, or in other parts of the Arab world. So still within the language may be similar, and sort of the culture is similar, but yeah, I think that's the sort of that the mobility and the movement for us is it's a very common experience. So I think almost everyone will feel it in some way.
You're an outsider, whether it's, for example, when I was living in Cairo, my best friend, towards the end of my stay, I was leaving, she goes, you know, you thought you spoke with an Egyptian dialect. I don't even know why she told me. She's like, you didn't. I said, but I thought, no, you didn't. It's like, who said something like that? So even with, you know, like I couldn't be upset with Egyptians because I couldn't. I wasn't entitled. Is that me gone?
You're fine. You're good. You're back.
Yeah, because it just
Yeah. Wow. We don't have loads of time left, and forgive me, Ghadah, for 1 second. There are quite a few people here I think we'd like to introduce. We've been running this project. I've mentioned it before. I don't want to go into too much detail, called Making Marks. So do go onto our website to have a look at how we've been connecting artists and institutions from the UK and Kuwait. We're joined here by Sheikha Al-Habshi. Did I say your name right? Hi. So Sheikha is another very interesting artist who you need to follow on Instagram, because she's doing some really amazing work online that we can see from wherever we are in our living rooms. She does some other real work that hopefully we'll get to see in an exhibition at some point, post
soon.
At one point. We don't know when. We're also joined by Ben Malcolmson, who is in Belfast.
Hello.
Ben joined us to our visit to Kuwait. He is a photographer in his final year of university, and is also, you can find him on Instagram. We'll if we could get their handles, or if you guys want to type your handles, probably quicker.
Nadia?
Yeah.
My friend Zahra's here. Hi, Zahra, check out her.
I was going to get to Zahra because That's okay. That's totally fine. Zahra is like I've known Zahra as well since 2012, and she did a residency program that was part of a British Council project that we were running. Her work you can also find on Instagram. Hey Zahra.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Yeah, baby.
We met Zahra this last year in Tampopo,
Sorry,
which
baby.
is our
Oh,
favorite.
Habibi. Someone's mic's on.
Okay. I think we've sorted that out.
Right.
And so Zahra, we met Zahra in Tampopo, which was was our favorite restaurant visit in Kuwait. I also follow them on Instagram and wish I could go there every day. We have to make a visit to Kuwait, especially. Zahra did the visual merchandising for them. Is that right?
I did the social media coverage for a couple of months when they first started out.
And you also recently became a TED Fellow, am I right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
The COVID year, I'm a fellow. So
well,
it's the first virtual TED, yeah.
Will you be doing a TED
Talk,
okay, but virtually from Kuwait?
Well, I'm gonna make a video, and I'm better at making these. So, you know, it deleted all of the nerves that I had about speaking publicly live on stage. So we're good.
Do you know when has your program already started, or?
It's gonna be like in about a week. So I have to film the talk and everything.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody should definitely. If you could, we'll get Zahra's.
I'll spam everyone. You won't have to worry about
it. But you should definitely check out her work. Do we have any of our other Making Marks artists with us today?
I think Dima is here.
Oh, Dima, the wonderful Dima, our favorite. Well, one of our favorite people. There's lots of our favorite people here. Dima Al-Hunaim is the founder of Medina Kuwait, and is an artist herself. And here she is.
She is.
Hey Dima, how are you? Your mic is off. If you can unmute, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Hi, how are you, Dima?
Hi. Am I on?
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi.
How are things?
Good, all good. Thank you.
Basically designed our itinerary in Kuwait and introduced us to lots of artists, including Ghadah and Zahra, and gave us a wonderful overview of the history of the culture and cultural heritage within Kuwait. Is Medina, I don't know what I should plug for you or Medina or both, or?
Well, actually, yeah, I'm an artist, and I also work as a partner at Medina. We do cultural tours and spatial studies. Of course, we're off also right now after the lockdown, but we did a couple of tours this year. And we were so happy that we joined you guys in this trip when you came to Kuwait, and we had a really wonderful tour around or a panorama view of the art scene in Kuwait in a way. So it was nice to meet you all,
and hopefully we will we'll be able to return at some point. And I could also see Sarah Alansari, who is a photographer we met last week. Hi Sarah, how are you?
Hi, hello everyone.
Hey, so Sarah is a photographer who we met throughout our program, and definitely we've continued to follow her on social media ever since.
Thank you.
Definitely we should Sarah, if you write your social handle there, we'd definitely love to follow you. I think everyone will get if you've never been to Kuwait and you don't know much about the art scene in Kuwait, you should actually follow everybody, and you'll get a bit of an idea before we can visit again.
Thank you.
So we're running out of time. Aimone and Becky, is there anything that I have missed?
No, I don't think so. We'll be hosting another Hangout next week.
Yeah.
The
Well, then,
guests will be announced next week. So,
well, in that case, I would just want to say to Ghadah, thank you so much for joining us.
Having you guys. I'll see you next week for sure.
Yeah, it's been so.
Okay.
I can't hear you. I don't know if that's me or if that's. Well, it's been really lovely, like learning a little bit more about your work. There's so much more to know, and I really recommend that if you guys don't use Instagram already, you should just download it just to check out Ghadah. You could spend hours and hours and hours flicking through and watching her videos and her stories and like learning more about her process. And there are projects that we haven't even touched upon, like your traveling tapestries.
Yeah.
And you can tell us a little bit about them now, actually.
Well, no, because I thought I'd bring one out, but they're just too big.
Okay. Well, you also have a video, I believe, from the Nuqad conference. So we can also link to. I'll quickly find that link for a talk that you did about the traveling tapestries and your journals, and so people can learn a little bit more about those. But yes, so we should. But hopefully, we'll touch base with you again at some point.
Sure, for sure. And thanks to everyone who, who came and hung out with me today. It feels like finally. It's just all the days have been sort of mush, but today felt like a Friday. So.
Right. Oh, just before we leave, I saw one more making artist, Sarah Ismail is here. Hi, Sarah. How are you? You need to unmute your mic.
Sorry,
Sarah is an illustrator who joined us along with Sheikha, two other artists, Faye and Stan, and travelled with us across the UK. We took them on, I don't know how they managed to still be standing at the end of it. We went to Belfast, Leeds and North Wales in 6 days, which was really insane. I would recommend more time to do those 3 places if you have it, but we had a wonderful experience. So yeah, Sarah, make sure you write your Instagram handle so we can follow you and your progress on making marks as well.
Okay, will do.
Great.
You guys all, and I came a little bit late. I wanted to come earlier. So yeah.
Well, you have very young twins. I think you have a really good excuse. So. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Like Amani said, we will have another Friday Hangout next week between 1 and 2, and we will have that up on our website and social channels, hopefully at the beginning of next week. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Great. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ghadah. That was marvelous.
That's great, guys.
Really
Oh,
good.
Ghadah,
Thank
this
you.
is Sir Derek Plumbly, our chairman.
Oh gosh, okay, all right. Anonymously listening, but with great interest, actually. It was really nice. It's lovely to see the Making Marks people, and Ben in particular, whom I met in Belfast. So they're good to be in touch again. Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, and
Really
there,
good.
since you're online now, I guess it's a good time to wish you a happy birthday then.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Oh, yeah.
We outed you.
All right, yes. I must be the oldest person participating by some decades, I would think. All right, and I'm getting older by the year. Okay.
It's all,
As are we all.
all in the mind, Derek. It's all
Okay.
in
Still
the
something
mind.
to celebrate.
All right. But anyway, it's lovely to hear you all and to hear Ghadah as well. There we are. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Bye, everybody.
Have a lovely weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Okay, are we leaving?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm just making
Well,
sure
you,
I'm
you
reading
stay.
the chat, so you're
I'll do.
we
First.